Hey, and welcome to I Was Just Thinking. My name is Heather Deveaux, and I was just thinking about being creative. And I want to talk to you about a simple process that I came up with early on in my creative sabbatical to help me kind of get over myself, and three things that I did and continue to do, and quite frankly, had been doing all along, but didn't realize I was doing as like a process. These three things help me to do things I'd never done before and create things I had never created before and try things that I had wanted to try but hadn't been able to put pen to paper, so to speak. One of the things that I pride myself on is being able to capture an idea and move very quickly towards action. And one of the reasons that I do this is because years ago, I was somebody who would have a million ideas. I still have a million ideas, but now I know what discernment is. And I have priorities that are clear now, and I understand what deserves my attention and what doesn't deserve my attention. But years ago, whenever I would have an idea, I would have to start working on that idea as fast as humanly possible because I was afraid that I was going to lose the idea or lose the momentum or get distracted with a different idea. And if you've been hanging around here for any length of time, you've heard me talk about the idea that I used to identify as someone who was a starter and not a finisher. And so I think it's very full circle that I came to this creative sabbatical and almost immediately was like, I'm going to need something to push me along here because I had so many ideas that rather than jumping in to take action on these ideas, I actually, for the first time in my life, felt frozen, which was super interesting to me. And so the way that I kind of got unstuck is to do this sort of simple three-step method. And this simple three-step method, call it whatever you want, I call it the sticky note method. This sticky note method helped me to see just the next few steps in front of me instead of all of the things that I had to do in order to accomplish the thing I wanted to accomplish. And so I'll go right back to the beginning with the creative sabbatical here to give you some examples of how this worked for me. And then I'll walk you through the process, which is super simple. So when I decided 6.5 months ago now, almost 7 months ago, because like time flies for some fucking reason that I just like can't understand, I had decided that the way I was going to mark my creative sabbatical. So the first thing I did was decide I was going to take a year off from running my business, my consulting business. The second thing I did was decide that I needed a way to mark the event because it is an event. It's not ongoing. It is a one-time thing for now. And if you listen to my podcast about a new business model, then you know that that's something now that I'm trying to figure out how to integrate into my life in an ongoing basis, how to work a lot in a very short period of time and then take the rest of the year off or like whatever that ends up looking like. But in the beginning, the idea was I'm going to have this hard stop in my business. I'm going to spend a year just exploring creative pursuits. And I wanted a way to mark it because I felt right away that this was going to be really monumental to experience for me. And it was going to be really interesting for other people to watch and to learn from and to be inspired by. And because my brain is a business first brain always, I'm always looking at ways to take something that I know and turn it into something that can help other people. So that's kind of like business slash education brain, I guess. They kind of, my two parts of my brain, the left and right hemisphere, definitely work together in that way, in that I want to create something and I want to share it with people, mostly because I think it's going to help them. It's going to teach them something, not always because I think it's going to make me money. And right now in this creative sabbatical, my goal is not to make money. My goal is to just share my experiences and what I know and teach, really. This is like a form of teaching. And so that's when I decided I'm going to create a blog. And the blogging came out of this, ironically, idea that I had had for years. Of all the ideas I've had, this is one that I have never sat down to do. And as soon as I started doing it, I realized why I had never done it before. It's because it was so much work to build a brand new platform from scratch. There's no plug and play here, let me tell you, from scratch, and to come up with all of the ideas and to come up with the theme and to come up with the direction and to come up with the purpose and to come up with my audience. Like, who am I talking to here when I'm writing 50 some blogs? What does this look like? And so I didn't have a timeline for how much I would blog, and I didn't have really any goals around what the blog would be or what it would become. But I did know that I wanted to mark time by creating a blog that was focused on this creative sabbatical, that is like a public journal of sorts, that I could use to house all of the other things I have in my life or that I'm interested in my life that I'm going to say have nothing to do with business. But now that I go back and I look at it, I'm like, this blog itself is a business. I'm not going to monetize it in that way. I early on thought, the blog itself is a business model, and it is something I have wanted to do for a really long time. And now that I'm in it and I can see that it's taking hold and that it's really a good idea and people are engaging with it and people love to see the transformation that's happening and how I'm thinking out loud, I am going to continue to do it even when I go back to my instructional design business, which of course now is Deveaux Learning Solutions. And so I'm on the back side of things, working very lightly, like light touch, light planning of what 2026 is going to look like for Deveaux Learning Solutions. And I'm still here working on this creative platform. I'm coming up with new ideas and putting things together and reimagining the blog and thinking about, what's next for it, because I am going to keep it. And when I think about starting this blog, again, the thing that I immediately knew why I wouldn't have started this sooner is because it is actually kind of time consuming. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because the point of creating the blog was to consume my time with giving focus to these creative endeavors that I wanted to work on. And I sat down to rebuild my website, heatherdeveaux.com, which originally was the business home base for Heather Deveaux Instructional Design. When I decided to take this creative sabbatical, I got rid of that website. I didn't just archive Heather Deveaux Instructional Design online. I got rid of it. I deleted it. Didn't archive it. I deleted it. And I can see now why I did that, and I'm glad I did it because it gave me a completely fresh slate to reimagine what Deveaux Learning Solutions is going to be. And it is going to be different, but the essence of it is the same, but it will be a different offer. It will be a different product. It will be a, slightly different audience, that kind of stuff. But the blog itself required that I build a completely new platform. Now, here's a little bit of information you need to know about me. And yes, there are 1,000 ways I could have done this that would have been less work. Just like get a Wix website, like get a Squarespace website, use a GoDaddy website. I buy all my domains on GoDaddy, and they have a pretty good website builder. But I am a creature of habit, not to my own detriment, but when something is working for me, I am not one to shoot myself in the foot and try to reimagine it just for the sake of reimagining it. So when I thought of going to engage or taking this creative sabbatical, and I had decided I'm going to wipe the website clean, I wanted to keep heatherdeveaux.com because it has evolved with me over the years, over the last 10 years. I think it's more than 10 years now that I've had this domain. But I wanted it to evolve and to sort of be the next thing with this creative sabbatical because I didn't know what was going to come after. I truly, until recently, didn't know what I was going to do when the year was up. And so as I sit here looking at the blog, there is a lot of information on this blog just for the sake of information. I have one course that I built that is an audio course, which is a solo travel course. It's for women, But I've done no marketing for it. I think I made one post about it early on LinkedIn. But unless you end up on my website and find your way to that course, you're not going to know about it. And I just recently discovered that the link to purchase it doesn't even work. So nobody has said that they've tried to buy it and it didn't work. But I discovered myself that it didn't work. So I'm going to look at that. But there is art on the website that I have created, but you'll see that it drops off after just 3. Even though I have completed more pieces of artwork since then, I have decided that I'm not going to actually sell them. I'm just going to keep them and hang them in my home. And the whole point of the creative sabbatical originally was built around this idea of unscaling. So if you're into business terminology at all, you know that people who run businesses talk constantly about the idea of scaling their business. And I scaled, quote unquote, my business years ago, and I fucking hated it. And I immediately undid all of it and bought myself a really shiny new truck. And that came from understanding my priority was no longer building something that looked cool. I wanted it to feel cool. I didn't want it to feel like it was a burden for me to run, which it did feel that way at the time. I had a team of 3 full-time employees. We had medical benefits. We had paid time off. We had bonuses. We did all kinds of stuff. And I was like, I fucking hate all of this. And when I decided to finally let the team go, over time, one went and then another, and then I finally let the last person go. The thing I did to celebrate that was buy myself a brand new truck, because I was like, I built this business for me alone, to support me and my family, and I don't owe anybody a job. I owe myself a job. And I didn't like the mentality that I was getting around being an employer at the time. I'm not saying I would never not hire other people again later, but like not right now. And at the time, definitely that was not for me. I discovered that. And so I had effectively unscaled my business, and I reimagined my business at that time so that everything I was selling and producing in the world was something I could manage myself. If it required a team to put it in the world, I didn't put it in the world. Like on purpose, I made these decisions. So I called that unscaling. Fast forward a couple of years later, I'm thinking about taking this year off, and the idea of unscale comes to me again. And I had already started writing a book, which I was titling Unscale. And so it all just kind of came together real good. And part of that, ironically, was that as I was building this blog, so building this brand new thing from scratch, trying to piece together, like, what is this? Who is it for? Why am I doing it? Right away, things started to drop off that I was like, no, that doesn't get my time. So I started anchoring this creative sabbatical around the idea of unscaled art. So trying to find a way to physically, visually represent how I was feeling about business and marketing and all, the whole bunch of it. I was doing art, painting and writing, but painting specifically to express those feelings and those thoughts. And I loved it, but I didn't love the idea of selling it. And so I put a couple of pieces up on my website, and then I have a couple of pieces sitting here in my office, but like I didn't push them and I didn't market them and I didn't make any effort really to sell them. And they got lots of attention when I did post them, but they're just sitting there and I'm like, I love them and I love to fill my home with things I have created or made. And so I was like, I think I'm just going to keep them because I don't want to be an art maker for money. And so in the true fashion of the word unscale, even though I was doing things, I was actively recognizing I don't actually like doing this, so I'm not going to keep doing it. And I think that takes a lot of willpower to be able to discern between something that you want to do and something that you need to do, and then to choose, I don't need to do this. I do want to do it, but not like this. And to keep molding and changing things so that they actually fit my life the way that I want to fit them. Now, do I want to have an office full of art? No, I got to do something with this art. But I also don't want to create more for the purpose of selling it. And so that is the theme behind Unscale, which if you go to heatherdeveaux.com, there is all kinds of talk and all kinds of information about the idea of unscaling, whether that be your business or your life. And in doing that, it requires you to take action. And I can tell you that undoing something is as hard as doing something. So creating something from scratch is difficult. Undoing it, walking it back, it's like in many ways more difficult because it's not about resetting the bar. It's not about going back to the way things were before. So I created all this art, I put it up for sale, and then was like, actually, I don't want to do this. And decided I'm just going to leave the landing page on the website. I'm not going to walk it back, but I'm not going to keep doing it either. And so I talked about how I just decided I'm not going to keep doing it. I used it as a learning moment for myself, and I talked about it out loud. I wrote about it and I blogged about it and I talked about it on LinkedIn and had conversations with friends about it and was like, no, I think this is like a really great example of priority for my energy and my focus, and it's fun and I love it, but like, holy fuck, I don't want this to be my job. I don't want this to be how I make money. There's just like not the same feeling I get when I'm working on like a course project, for example. When I was creating the audio course that I made, I loved doing that. That's something that I really enjoy and I could spend a lot of time on, and it doesn't require me to put effort into making myself do it. I could just do it over and over again. But the art required me to put effort into doing it. It was like a thing I had to do on purpose. And so I came up with this idea of what are the next 3 steps? Because if I have to drag my ass to the basement to hang my canvas and paint, come up with an idea and then paint and then let it dry and go back tomorrow and paint again and then let it dry and go back the next day. Like we're talking 4 or 5 days for a canvas. And I made sizable canvases. I think they were 16 by 40. So I like a long, narrow canvas. And I was painting for myself first and foremost. I was painting things I wanted to see in the world. I was painting how I felt. I was painting thoughts that I had. And they're all just kind of abstract nothingness, but beautiful to look at, beautiful. And so one of the things that I noticed right away was this feeling of, I kind of don't want to do this, but like I said, I was going to do it. So I should get up and go to the basement and I should paint. And I had created a little studio for myself down there, just makeshift studio. And still, I didn't really want to go do it. And so I think that stuff is really telling because sometimes we do things because we think this will be good for me, or I said I was going to do it, so now I have to do it. And I'm guilty of that too. I'm guilty of like, I'll just keep doing the thing because I said I was going to do it. But at some point, I'm going to have to pull the plug because this is not going to be good for me, and anyone around me is not going to enjoy my company if I still have to keep going to the basement making art, as an example. And so I come up with this 3-step process of, it's not actually 3 steps. It's not like step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 3, do this. It is step 1, what do I have to do immediately next to get ready to get to the next step? So sometimes we think like the blog is a great example of this. I want to create a blog. I want to have a creative blog. I want to have this creative platform. And I'm going to write in it as much as I want or not. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to create the platform. And creating a website from scratch, so I use WordPress, which requires a lot of like back-end stuff. I don't code, but it requires a lot of knowledge of how the platform works. It's not just a drag and drop platform. I've been using it since day 1 in my business and have taught myself how to use it. So I'm comfortable using it. I'm not interested in moving to another platform. I thought I was, but then decided I'm actually just going to keep this one. And that required me to not only know how to use the platform, but to know the order of operations to make the platform work the way that I wanted it to work. And that's the part where people start to get a little uncomfortable because we tell ourselves from a learning perspective, this is going to be a lot of work. I don't know how long it's going to take. And they start thinking about the end result before they think about the next 3 or 4 steps. And they think about where they know they're going to get hung up. And there's almost like a natural inclination to start there, to start reducing the barriers before they get to them. But sometimes it is just about putting one foot in front of the other And I caught myself avoiding doing my art, even though I said I wanted to do it. I caught myself avoiding it because I just felt like there's so much involved here with getting it ready to put it online to sell it that I was avoiding painting at all, which is super interesting, right? Like I was already at the back end of the result. I didn't even have a painting to sell, but I was holding myself up from doing the work because of the work I'd have to do much later to get it on the website and sell it. And it takes like 4 minutes to snap a photo, put it on a website page, and write a short description and a button to buy it. It takes no time at all to do that. And yet I was like, that's going to be so much work. I'm going to have to do that. And then I'm going to have to post it. And then I'm going to have to share it. And I had like talked myself out of doing it before I had ever started. And so I started doing this thing where I would get a little sticky note, and I have 8,000 of them, like a post-it note. I have them all over my house. And I very rarely, this needs to be said, I very rarely use post-it notes the way they're meant to be used. So people will use post-it notes like writing a reminder to themselves, and then they'll have all around the monitor of their computer or the mirror of the bathroom. People will have sticky notes on their refrigerators, like everything. But I tend to use my sticky notes as like note-taking devices, I guess. I don't even know the word. So I have a bunch of sticky notes all over my desk, and they have just like really weird things written on them. Not things I need to remember to do, because that is not how my brain works. If I write on a sticky note something I have to remember to do, that's not what's going to make me do it. So that's not what I use it for. I write down things that I have done or want to remember or want for reference. So for example, with Deveaux Learning Solutions, I came up with a new color palette for the new website that I'm building. And I don't want to have to keep looking up what my hex codes are for my colors. So I put them on a sticky note, and I put that on my computer. But there's nowhere on my computer that says like, remember to do this. So when I picked up the sticky note, naturally picked it up and was like, I'm just going to write down the next 3 things that I have to do and use it as a checklist to get my painting on the website, to get it out into the world. And so this is what I wrote on the sticky note. Number 1, finish canvas. Like, super fucking simple. Don't worry about anything else until you finish painting the fucking painting, Heather. Like, why do we get ahead of ourselves like this? So number 1, finish canvas. Number 2, write description. And this is what I wrote on my sticky note. I have a picture of it right in front of me. Finish canvas, write description. Not even full sentences. Number 3, post on Facebook. That was it. 3 things. But I couldn't write the description, and I couldn't post it on Facebook, which was actually, in truth, the thing I was dreading. I hate posting on Facebook for anything. But like, that's where that audience is. I thought that's where people are going to enjoy seeing this. They're going to share it. If I'm ever going to sell it, that's probably where I'm going to sell it. And not happenstance, but like actively made the decision that that was the channel I was going to use to sell my art, and through the website. Finish canvas, write description, post it on Facebook. Super simple. And because it's not rocket science, I think sometimes we overlook these things. You probably came here looking for a 3-step method to success with your creative progress. And I'm just telling you what I needed to do next. And that is the step. It's not actually 3 steps to creative progress or business progress or life progress or weight loss progress or relationship progress. It's not. It's just, what are the next couple of things I need to do? But more importantly, what is the one thing I have to do before I can move on? And if the end result is, well, I got to post it on Facebook, or, well, I want to post it on Facebook, whatever, language matters, it does. But if that is the end result that I'm looking for, to post it on Facebook, then yeah, I could write the description before I finish the canvas, but in my brain, I need to finish that canvas. That is the thing that has to happen before I can do anything else. because I need to have a thing in the world to offer to Facebook land. I need to have that. So not rocket science, but practical. And I have a very logical, linear brain. And I've said this before, where I go from point A to B to C. I never jump to G. I don't jump to K. I won't start at K. I don't ever start in the middle of something. I always have to have like a clean slate and start from the beginning, no matter what I'm doing. I can't dive back into something is what I'm trying to say. And I talked about in the last episode of the podcast writing a romance novel. And the best example of that I can give you is when I sit down to write at any time of the day. No matter what I'm writing a full chapter. I'm writing a full, complete beginning, middle, and end chapter. I'm not writing 4 sentences in a chapter. I'm not writing 4 pages and then coming back tomorrow to write the other 4 pages of the chapter. I write the full chapter because I like closing loops. I like done. I like things to be complete. And sometimes you can't complete things until you complete other things. So this worked for me because when I felt like I was getting distracted, or I was using excuses, or I was dreading, I don't want to have to post this on Facebook. The good news was I didn't have to worry about posting it on Facebook because I hadn't finished the goddamn piece of art yet. And so I got to focus on doing the art. I got to actually do the thing I wanted to do, which was paint the art. It turned out that this was a great exercise in understanding myself, in that I discovered I want to keep painting, but not for other people. I don't want to monetize this or have this as a product in a business. Actually, I don't want to do that because I don't enjoy that part. I'm not saying you can't make money from art. I'm not saying that you shouldn't make money from art. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I'm saying for me, the way I operate in the world and how I feel when I show up to do work is not that. And I didn't know that until I started doing it. So the irony was I started this creative platform, heatherdeveaux.com. I've called it Heather Deveaux Creative. I started this platform with the intention of like doing art. And it just turned out to become a writing project, really, with a couple of pieces of art for sale. And if I never sold them, I wouldn't care. And I genuinely mean that. And I make no effort to sell them. I'm happy to keep them. I have one hanging in my she shed. I have 2 here in my office. I have 1 downstairs. And so I think when we think about these things, we often think that we have to create momentum and we have to find inspiration. And I want to argue that we can control momentum and we can control inspiration. And what I mean by that is I could sit in a creative cyclone for hours just feeling like, oh, I don't know, and maybe, and what's this going to look like? And then what do I have to do? Like thinking about all the work that comes after prevents me from doing the work that I want to do right now, which was just paint a fucking picture. And instead of like getting caught up in, I need to create interest in this, I decided to control my interest by taking it one simple step at a time. And I mean, I wish I had a system to offer you for this because that's what I'm known for. But this works so much better. What is the very next thing that I have to do, that you have to do to get closer to the finish line? And it's the old adage, you have to make $1 before you can make $10. And we tend to be like, well, I just want to make $10. How do I make $10? Where's the $10? Can you just give me $10? But you have to know how to make $1 before you can make $10. And you have to take a step before you can run. And you have to get out of bed before you can make it. You know, pick a metaphor. It doesn't matter. What I want to leave you with, and this is a bit of a shorter episode this week, but I think I want you to use the time that you were going to sit here and listen to me rant. I want you to use the time to think about what the next 3 steps for you would be in something that you are either avoiding starting or finishing. And I can tell you that when it comes to running this platform, which is growing very slowly, growing. It's doing its thing in the world, and I'm happy to just let it keep being sewn together, really, like keep letting it kind of come together and become what it's going to be. I did come up with an overall 3-step method for myself. So instead of looking at the individual steps I'd have to take for individual projects I'm working on, I focused it around the blog, because once I discovered that I don't actually want to be doing art in the traditional sense, I want to be writing. I come up with this 3-step sticky note method for myself. And these are my 3 steps. My only job in running this platform now is to make something, write about it, and then share it. So whether I'm making a podcast episode, I'm writing about it, and I'm sharing it. Whether I'm creating art, I'm making it, I'm writing, and I'm sharing it. Whether I am working on a course, I'm making it, I'm writing about it, and I'm sharing it. That's it. That's the 3 things. And what I want you to take away from this is when you go and you look at something at the micro level, like boots on the ground, what is the next most important step you have to take? But if you can give yourself a little bit of a runway, what are the next 3 things you have to do? Or what are the 3 main things you have to do to get this thing out into the world? Whatever it is. Might be a tuna casserole onto the table for dinner. I don't know. Whatever it is, what are the next 3 things? But then if you can look at the macro level, so bring this up a couple of thousand feet, and come up with your own equivalent of make, write, share. Everything I'm doing on this creative platform is making something, writing about it, and sharing it. And to be clear, I don't mean sharing on social media. The very fact that I publish the blog is considered sharing in my mind. So I've just stripped away, I've unscaled the rules here. I do share very often on Pinterest, and I have a 3-step method for posting on Pinterest, which is grab the blog URL, create one graphic. I know you should be creating more. I don't care. Create one graphic, and I put a plugin onto my WordPress website so that I could pull the graphic from my blog that I create, knowing this is going to be the one that's going on Pinterest. So I create one graphic for every blog. I have this plugin that allows me to just hit a button on my website that says share. Actually, it says save to Pinterest. That takes me over to Pinterest automatically. And then I can write a little blurb about whatever I have that I'm sharing. So I make the blog, I make the graphic, I write about it, and then I share it. That's it. Just super simple. And if you wanted something more complicated than that, I would encourage you to sit with why you wanted something more complicated than that. We don't need to be making things more complicated. I'm a learning expert. Take this advice from me. You don't need to make things more complicated than make, write, share. Then 1, 2, 3. What is the next fucking thing you have to do to get that thing out into the world? Whatever it is. I mean, I'm not a fan of tuna casserole, but like you do you, whatever you're doing. If you want to learn more about being creative, which could be like a whole other conversation, but like be creative. Fuck it. It's not, there's no rules. You're not born creative. You're not knighted creative. If you're putting the stuff on your kitchen counter in a different arrangement than you did yesterday, that's being creative. If you are arranging the books on your shelf to make them look aesthetically pleasing, that's being creative. You don't have to make something to be creative. And I hope that isn't your definition of it, because it's certainly not mine. And it serves me so well when I think of being creative as just being human. Problem solving. Being creative is problem solving. Being creative is making a bed and arranging the pillows to look nice. Like, it's very simple stuff here. And so if you want to learn more about how you can incorporate being creative into your everyday life, I'm going to invite you to go to heatherdeveaux.com and click on the link for free challenges at my top menu. I'm going to put the link in the show notes for you. And I want you to join my 5-day creative challenge. This is an email challenge, so I'll email you every day for 5 days with one prompt, because like we don't need a lot of information to get things running. One prompt on how to reinvigorate or discover your creativity in everyday life. So you can go to heatherdeveau.com/challenges, and there are actually 3 free email challenges there. One is the creativity challenge, one is the journaling challenge, and one is the solo adventure challenge. So go check those out, find something that you like, join the challenge. I'm not going to bother you too much. I only send out newsletters once a month for this whole platform. And just give it a whirl and write down 3 things that you need to do or want to do to move whatever it is you're working on forward. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon.